been like?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the honourable member from Rochdale. I rise to relay some of the concerns that have been raised with me by constituents and businesses who are not only concerned about the impact of the proposals of this bill on small businesses in Ceredigion and Preseli, but also the provision of public services in my constituency. It's been interesting to listen to various opinions on this matter, but I would like just to begin by pushing back on this implication that has been made by some that the changes included in this bill will not have an impact on small businesses. For the fact of the matter is, the Office for Budgetary Responsibility estimates that from 2026-27 onwards, 76% of the total cost of the increase in employers' national insurance will be passed through lower real wages. Yes, that not only tells you that there will be an impact on businesses, but also, contrary to what has been suggested by some in this chamber today, there will also be an impact on working people, on the workers. Now, much has been said about the concerns and the impact on businesses, with which I very much agree. I want to concentrate my remarks on the impact on public services in Wales. Now, it's worth noting that 30% of the Welsh workforce is employed in the public sector, a much higher proportion than the rest of the UK. And so the proposed increase in employers' national insurance contributions equates to some 380 million. So it's clear, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the consequences of this bill on the provision of public services will therefore be significant, and it remains unclear whether the additional government support or the reimbursement will actually meet the increased cost. The budgets of local authorities across Wales already face a budget shortfall of over £500 million. Now, at a time of significant budgetary pressure, Ceredigion County Council, one of the county councils in my constituency, estimate that the increase in NICs will total over £4 million in 1 year alone. Now, communities deserve assurances that essential services will not be further jeopardised by funding gaps exacerbated by the changes proposed in this bill today. And I shall ask the Minister, in her summing up, whether she can confirm that the full cost of the increase to national insurance contributions will be reimbursed to local government in Wales, and furthermore, whether this will be a recurring additional support, because the last thing we'd want, surely, is for the additional cost to be covered in year 1, year 2, year 3, only for them then to face a cliff edge in funding. But of course, in addition to the direct cost on public authorities for whom the government have suggested they will provide additional support, we should also bear in mind the other organisations, public sector organisations, third sector organisations, who are integral in delivering many of the public services that we would consider valuable to society. Social care providers are one example, caring for the vulnerable and helping to alleviate pressure on the NHS. Yet the cost of the national insurance contributions increase could be devastating in Wales. Care Forum Wales estimates that the cost to their members across Wales will total a staggering £45 million. Now, I've heard what has been said by the Treasury bench about these decisions, additional support will be allocated in the usual way. I'd like to know how that additional cost will be allocated to Wales, because my understanding is that in conversations with the Welsh Government, the Government in Westminster is only discussing the additional cost for those public sector organisations that will be reimbursed directly. Other examples would include citizens' advice bureaus, a third sector, who also provide invaluable support to some of the most vulnerable in society, and yet they are facing a significant additional cost without talk of government support. The fact of the matter is that I labour this point on these extra third sector or public sector organisations who do not stand to receive reimbursement from the government, because they are so crucial to delivering many of the public services that we've heard so much about in this debate. There's a real risk that if your social care homes, your hospices, your dentists, your GPs are not adequately reimbursed, then all the government will do is actually erode the value of the investment it claims to be making in those public services. I could also, Madam Deputy Speaker, mention a little bit about the university sector. The higher education is a very important sector in my constituency. Ceredigion and Preseli is home to two universities, Aberystwyth University and the University of Wales Trinity St David's. Both organisations are currently facing very difficult times, as are most of the institutions in higher education, and both are stating to now deal with quite significant additional costs next year when these proposals come into force. There is no talk of additional support for those institutions. And so I very much worry that we will also lose the incredible economic impact and contribution they make to my constituency, let alone the important social and cultural contribution they make. Very happy to give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. I just wondered, is he about to come on to the part where he welcomes the largest real-term settlement for Wales since devolution?
I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman. We've been blessed by many of his contributions this afternoon. What I would tell him is that with the Barnett formula, I'm not going to thank for the largest settlement, because that is only a function of the fact of spending decisions made for the purposes and to address the needs of public services in England. If the honourable gentleman's government had proposed a reform of the Barnett formula, so there's a proper needs-based formula, I would very much congratulate him and his government for doing that. To conclude, we all recognise the need to raise revenue to meet the challenges facing our economy. We've heard some suggestions, alternative suggestions, this afternoon, that the government may well have decided to look again at corporation tax, at least tackle businesses on the profits that they make. We've also heard other proposals, a few that the government might have considered, as changes again to the capital gains. A full equalisation of capital gains tax rates could raise £14 billion a year, for example. There's been no mention by the government of exploring a wealth tax on the ultra-rich. It's not fair that the wealth inequality continues to grow at the expense of our public services and communities. Now, it's been suggested by some that 2% tax on assets over 10 million, which would target the top 20,000 richest people in the country, could raise £24 billion. So in conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, I fear that the proposals included in this bill will have a significant impact on my constituents, both the workers, the businesses and, quite importantly, the provision of public services. And we've already heard in this debate many other alternative proposals that the government could have decided to implement, but they decided not to.